Sunday morning where I'm at. I'm not sure when I'm going to be releasing this video. It might be later on tonight, it might be even tomorrow, I'm not sure. I just wanted to say thank you all for the condolences for my children, for the tragedy that happened a week ago today. This is the video that I was in the middle of when I got that call. And so I just deleted it, and because I wasn't finished when I got the call. But I just wanted to say thank you for all the kind words and the condolences for my children. They really, really mean a lot. And, you know, that's what I love about, you know, my channel. Like I said, it's not my community. All of you guys come from different communities. You know, no matter what I'm doing, I talk about behaviors of what I see, and I might be talking about someone in your community, but everybody stays pretty civil. And you know, I might do a cheesy craft or cooking video or whatever, but you know, there's a lot of good people out there, and where it matters the most, that's when people come together, and that's awesome. That's really awesome. And I want to thank y'all again. The comments were awesome. I appreciate it. I have not been on YouTube. I don't know any of the drama going on this whole week. Have no clue. My kids needed me. Again, like I said, I'm back home, but I don't know, you know, when I might be headed back out of town. But I am video chatting them continuously throughout the day to make sure they're doing okay. They come first, you know, before any of the YouTube stuff. So I have no clue what has been happening, but I'm not feeling good today. I think it's just stress from all of this, you know, that's happened. And so today I'm just going to kind of, after this video, I am just going to relax in bed and kind of look on YouTube and see what's been going on. If it gets, you know, too out of control and I think I need a break, you know, then I'll just put it down. But that's what I'm going to do today. And keep checking on my kids. And they come first. They come before anything. But I'm going to go ahead and dive right in. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that made the comments and that watched my video. I know it was a trigger warning. And I did put out that personal information. But again, thank you. And I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, dive right in to the video that I was going to do when this happened last week. What I'm going to talk about is Kim and Crafton and what happened with the incident with the seizures and his personal information being put out there. Now, I have to say, I don't know much about Kim and Crafton. I heard, you know, I'm familiar with Crafton Barnes, okay, his name from way back, okay? When I say way back, you know, not years and years, but anyways, I never followed them. I have watched a couple of their videos, you know, not too far back, but just a couple of videos, and that's it. But I never really followed Kim and Crafton. And, you know, I did see the community post when this incident happened, when Kim put out about Crafton having, you know, the seizures and asking for prayers and you know, she wasn't sure, what his future held. And I also know that it was already put out there. I'm not doing any doxing or putting out personal information. This was already talked about, that he had a TBI some years back, which is a traumatic brain injury. He was attacked, and ever since then, he had a seizure disorder. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because I have a child, my youngest son, and I did speak about this in my last video, that my youngest son has health issues, and one of those is he has epilepsy. Okay, so that's why I wanted to do this video, to share that story, about some incidents I've had with my youngest son. So anyways, so she put that out there, and people were giving their condolences, and then she was off the channel. And I know Crafton has another channel, I believe, but I've never watched any of those videos. And I did notice that on their channel, they're not ones to go live every night. They don't, I don't even think they do videos, not even once a week. Maybe they're not ones to be on all the time. I do believe, I don't know about Crafton, but I do believe Kim has, a job outside of YouTube that she talked about. Maybe Crafton does as well. I don't know. I have no idea. But like I said, I don't know much about them. And I don't want people coming at me saying, well, you need to know this about them and that about them, or they've done this or they've done that. I just want to talk about this incident, okay? This is all I'm talking about right now. So she put that out there, and then I think when he got out later on, she was on panel on a live, and I think Crafton went, and I didn't hear his. He went on somebody else's live after all this. And so some other creators, they're like, huh, okay. So they wanted to do some digging. Nothing new there, okay. People like to go digging. And, I'm sorry. I don't agree with that. I just don't know where people draw the line when they want to go digging into people's past. That will never be me. Okay, it won't. You won't see me doing that. I might talk about, and I have, what is already, people have already talked about, or what other creators have already said about themselves. That's just not me, guys. I'm sorry. This YouTube drama is bad enough, but to go and pay money, or to go and dig in and to look on people's Facebook, or to try to go find their work and all that, that's just crap. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't understand this mentality of some people, but I guess you do you, okay? If you can sleep better at night doing this stuff, have at it, I guess. But, and I know some people, okay, I know that they'll say, well, this person did this, so, I'm doing it back at them. Okay, that's all I can say is okay. I just know that me, myself, I'll never do that, okay? But anyways, they found out that Crafton was actually arrested. And so they assume, all right, they're assuming that Kim and Crafton just made this up, or basically Kim, she's fooling, she's a fraud. I was hearing all that, okay, before I had to take this break, that she was a fraud and she was lying to her community and then to everybody else. And I'm going to say true crime slash drama, basically drama community. And, you know, the seizures never happened. He was never in a hospital. He was arrested and he was in jail the entire time because they found out that he was arrested. He was booked in and he was released. I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken, 10 days later. Don't quote me on that, okay? So they're just assuming that he was in jail the entire time and that there was no health crisis that ever happened. And he was in jail and they were reading out his charges, that he was in jail for domestic violence against Kim. Now, the thing is, okay, let's say, because none of us were there, none of us, besides Kim and Crafton, okay? None of us were there. And we don't have Crafton's medical records. We see what was on or we hear, and they were showing what was on the police report or his arrest record or whatever, okay, what they're putting out there. So people are just assuming that she's lying about everything. Now, let's think about that. If Kim is telling the truth and he had this episode, okay, and he did attack her, and he was getting treatment and they were doing these tests, and she wanted to let her community know he's not doing well, okay? They're trying to figure out because, you know, he has a seizure disorder, but this is something totally new. He's never got violent before. He's having issues, all right? He's not coming around after the seizure like he normally does. So they're running all this test. I mean, I don't think she put out that he was violent, but they're running all this test. Do you think she would have wanted to put out that he attacked her? So, yes, she did leave that part out. But if this happened to anybody else, wouldn't you leave that part out as well? I mean, come on. Is that something you would want everybody to know? I mean, and then I was seeing some people saying that Kim deserved it. All right? That she deserved what she got. That was pretty disgusting. All right? Pretty disgusting. And, you know, some of the people that were saying it have said, you know, they've never had to deal with domestic violence before. Some people have said, you know, that they have dealt with domestic violence before. And this is the only thing I have to say, okay? Because I have said that I'm a domestic violence survivor of 15 years. And, you know, when I was doing this video, the first time, the man that I was talking about, my children's father, was alive and now he's deceased. But, so it's kind of weird talking about it now, but people that have never had to deal with it before have no room to talk about it. And when I say that, they have no room to say something, you know, they shouldn't say it anyways, that someone deserves it, or I don't mean to say that in a bad way. They have no room to talk about it, but they have no room to sit there and tell somebody what they should or shouldn't feel, okay? Because they don't know how it feels. And those that have been through it before, that's pretty disgusting to say to another woman or about another woman, because you know how it feels. But getting back to Kim, I mean, of course, that would be something that she would want to be left out because that's not something you want people to know. All right. She might have came out with that in time, but she's also, in my opinion, just from me hearing her speak, she's not dumb. She knows, I'm sure she would have known that people would have drugged this up. I mean, people are digging into people's past. They're finding out who's, you know, your grandmother's cousin's uncle, aunt is. I mean, come on. So at some point, I'm sure she would have known that they were going to drag this up. She just might not have been ready yet to say it. All right? And they said that she was frauding people out of money. From what I could gather, all right, no money was raised. I know that Ahmad did some sort of PayPal or something like that, but I don't think any money was raised. I don't think any money was raised for anything. And some people were saying, well, they were trying to get money for bond or something. Was there even a bond on there? I think Kim even showed that. I'm not sure. I'm not going to go dig back and look. I don't think there was a bond. I could be wrong about that. So don't quote me on that. But I think no money was raised, okay, for this at all. And moving on from that, okay, people are sitting behind their keyboards, okay, and they are just assuming that she isn't telling the truth. Well, yeah, she kind of left some things out. But if it were you, would you have left that part out? Yeah, you would have. Okay, you would have. At least for now. But like I said, I don't think she's not dumb. She knew it was going to come to light. Okay? She just wasn't ready to talk about it. That's just my opinion. Because people dig in and find out, like I said, who your grandma's uncle, cousin, niece, nephew, where you worked at when you were 18, you might be 50 some years old, where you worked at when you were 18 years old, where you went to high school at. I mean, come on. So anyways, but here's the thing. They're like, well, he was booked in on this day and he spent 10 days in jail. Now, I know that there's some nurses, viewers out there that work at hospitals. I know this. There has to be. But you're not going to speak up. And the nurses that work at hospitals, you know that when an inmate comes either from the jail or directly from the home that they're at, or say, you know, if there's a police chase or something like that, okay, they're automatically put under arrest wherever they're at. This happened at the home, right? First off, Kim had every right to call the police, okay? She was attacked. No matter what the reason, she was attacked. When the police got there, they had to do their job. So they're going to charge him, no matter what the reason or what happened. Okay, they're going to charge him with these charges. So he was placed under arrest. All right. So nurses that work in hospitals, you know that if an inmate comes after being booked in to the jail, or if they come from the home, they're already under arrest. All right, so it's going to show that They were booked, under arrest, whatever. When they come to the hospital, all inmates are private. And what I mean by that is whenever you go to the ER or you're admitted in the hospital, they will ask you, if anybody calls and ask for you, do you want them to know you're here? And you can say yes or no. If you say no, you're considered private. So if anybody calls to ask for you, they'll say, we don't have a patient by that name here. And that goes in, well, back in the day it would be charts, but now everything's computerized. That goes in your chart. So you're considered private. All inmates are automatically private. So if you go look up somebody, okay, say somebody from the jail was booked in, okay, booked in, he was there 10 minutes, whatever, he got there, they booked him in, you know, they did whatever they had to do, and they had to take him over to the hospital, say, for whatever reason, I'm just giving an example, they had to take him over to the hospital. He was there in the hospital for 7 days, all right? On that 7th day, he gets out of the hospital and he's released from jail that same day. If you look him up, it's going to show that he was booked in the jailhouse the entire 7 days or however long. It's never going to show that he was at the hospital, ever, because he was private. It's going to show that he was sitting in the jail that entire time. And you nurses that work in hospitals that are viewers know this. So that's what I'm saying. We weren't there. We don't have Crafton's medical records, all right? So he very well could have been in a hospital, still under arrest, but in a hospital the entire time. Because of this incident. And people just want to assume that she is misleading everybody. Did she mislead? Yeah, because she didn't say, hey, this is what happened, the whole story. But again, like I said, women, okay, is that a part that you would have left out? If this is all true, okay, is that a part you would have left out? Absolutely, I think so. For now, okay? Because it's traumatic. Anybody that is a domestic violence survivor, it's traumatic, number one. And it was still fresh, okay? And this was something that she has not seen before, she said, out of Crafton. I think she said she's seen seizures before, but this is something that she has not seen from him before. The violence part. So where I'm coming from, what I'm trying to get at, okay, is he could have very well been sitting in a hospital and still show that he was sitting in a jail the entire time. And that is a fact, okay? That's a fact. Anybody can check with if you don't believe me. Like I said, I know there's some nurses out there that work in a hospital. There's some techs, okay? You guys know. You guys know. Talk to somebody that works in a jail. You can call the jailhouse and ask them. They'll tell you. So if he had to have tests done, EEGs done, blood work done, or anything like that, all right, he's going to show private, and he's still going to be showing that he's under arrest in a jail, not at the hospital. But I'm going to move on from that because that is a fact. I'm not saying that I know what happened. I wasn't there. I'm not saying that I know for a fact that he was in a hospital. All I'm saying is I know for a fact that it will still show that he was booked, even if he was at the hospital. It's not going to show that, oh, well, he was only at the jail for a couple of days and then he was at the hospital and then back. No, that's not how it works. So people that are assuming that they're being lied to are just assuming. Okay, they don't know that as a fact. All right, so I'm going to move on from that and give my story because I have dealt with this with my son and also my second ex-husband, who is now passed away as well because he OD'd after I divorced him. He OD'd it's been about 6 years. But my son, he started having seizures when he was 6. Now, a year prior to that, he had asthma. He was diagnosed with asthma so severe that we almost lost him. We had no clue. He had an asthma attack, and he was diagnosed with asthma. We thought he was just really sick, and long story short, he was in ICU for a week, and a year later, I get a call. He was at his father's, and his father told me that he had a seizure, and, the ambulance was on its way. We went to the hospital, and they told, the neurologist was called in, and, I'm going to try to make this quick here, guys. They told us, they went through the questions. Was he sick? Was he running a fever? Because children can get febrile seizures. Okay, that's running a high fever. No, he wasn't sick. He wasn't running a fever. Did he have any type of a brain injury or head trauma before? Never any head trauma. Did he hit his head really hard? No, he didn't. Didn't hit his head. Checking for bruises. Even asked him, did you hit your head? No, he didn't hit his head. Doing all the routine questions. Okay. So they said they were going to keep him overnight, and they were going to do an EEG the next day. And they did, and he was showing seizure activity. And the neurologist, which became his neurologist later on, but the neurologist at the time explained that people can have a seizure, okay, for any reason. One seizure. Overtired, being overtired. They see that a lot. High fevers with children. Stressed. They're not going to do anything with just one seizure. No medication, nothing. But he said with his EEG showing seizure activity, his chances of having another seizure was a 50-50 chance. But they will not do anything with just one seizure with no other cause, okay? They did do a CT scan. It didn't show anything. No, because, of course, they would want to check for, like, a, brain bleed. I'm trying to think if it was a CT scan or an MRI. I mean, this was back a while ago. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. No rhyme or reason why he had a seizure. So, anyways, he went on, I think, for maybe 4 months, didn't have another seizure, and then he had another one. And that's when they put him on seizure medication. And his medication was, at that time, Depakote sprinkles. And what that is a capsule that pulls apart, and it's little sprinkles that you put on their tongue because he was young and couldn't swallow well, he could have probably, but you put the little sprinkles on their tongue and discard the capsule. So my son was lucky enough, because some children have seizures daily, continuously. Um, he didn't have those. It seemed like the medication controlled them. He would have breakthrough seizures. My son had the grand mal seizure. Um, that was his brain misfired, his complete, total brain misfiring. There's all sorts of different kinds of seizures. That's what he was having. My son was a little bit different, though. As the doctor said, his neurologist said, he might get really bad muscle cramps, from season. Um, One thing that he would always get is a very bad headache, and he would always go into a very deep sleep right after his seizure. Um, we had tubes, it was like a 2-pack. They were very expensive, and I don't want to sound too graphic, but it was diazepam. It was rectal in case his seizure lasted too long, which we would get him to the hospital, but we would use that first. Thank God I never had to use that. Um, we had many trips to the hospital because I'm telling you, it's scary to watch your child go through that until we got used to him having seizures. And I hate saying that you have to get used to your child having seizures, but, um, we did. My 2 older children got used to it. Thank God the medication, kept him under control to an extent, but he would still have breakthroughs. And he had a lot of lab works to make sure that his medicine was at a therapeutic level. A lot of times it wasn't. We only stuck with the same medication. We would just up the dose as he got older. And at puberty, the neurologist wanted to try to wean him off to see if maybe, he would outgrow these, which I never really understood, but, that's what we tried to do. We tried to do it twice, and it didn't work. And needless to say, he has to take medication for life, and he still has seizures. He still has breakthrough seizures, but he only takes the one medication. It's just been, the dose has been up, as he's grown. But what I wanted to talk about is the difference, the changes, as he got older, the changes of what happens when he came out of the seizures. Now, I always said he would get the headache, and he suffers from headaches since he was 6, since the seizures. He has always suffered from them since. But he would have a very, very bad headache. And when he would go to the hospital, they would always have Tylenol ready. They would give him Ativan, as well as, fluids. And, and I already said, then there was a time where we would get used to, as long as he came out of the seizures okay, where he didn't go to the hospital. But it would sometimes it would trigger his asthma as well. So sometimes, we had no choice but to take him to the hospital, because he would go into a severe asthma attack and it would just be a mess. But anyways, when he was younger, his neurologist would tell us, that what to expect. That he would might get really bad body aches. That didn't happen when my son was younger. He didn't have the body aches at all. The headaches, yes, he would get a really bad headache. And he said that my son might be out of it for a few days. That never happened. When he was younger, he got a burst of energy. This kid would be the energy was unbelievable. After he would come out of that deep sleep, the deep sleep always happened. It still does. he would go into a very deep, deep sleep after his seizures. He would wake up, okay, wake up for a little bit, and then he was out. Very deep sleep. But he would have the energy like you wouldn't believe. Now, as he started getting older, all right, as he started getting older, he started, and he was growing, after he was a teenager, he started getting the body aches, okay? He would hurt all over, and he still would get the headache, and he didn't have the energy anymore. He would be out of it for a couple of days. Slurred, his words would slur, kind of like, I said with my being on Topamax, the words would be there, but they just didn't come out right. He started getting depressed. After a seizure, he would be depressed. And that would go on for a little bit. But, like I said, thank God they didn't happen a lot. Now, the first time, and this has only happened this bad one time, he was 17 years old, and he was with his friends, and his friends have seen him have seizures, okay? They knew what to do. Make sure he's on his side. Don't go near his mouth. Don't put anything in his mouth. Don't restrain him. Make sure that his head is protected. If there's something soft, a jacket, pillow, something to put under his head so he's not banging his head. There's nothing close to his head that, he could get a head injury. If he's sitting up, standing up, or whatever, try to get him to the ground so, he doesn't hurt himself. But he was with his friends and his friends' parents, and they were at their church. They had a food bank, and they were handing out food. And he was volunteering, helping to do that. And he had a seizure. And his friend's parents they wanted to take him to the hospital. And his friend called me, and they called me Mom. And he's like, Ma, and I'm not going to say my children's names. I've already stated that. But he said, my son had a seizure. And he's like, we're on the way to the hospital. And I'm like, okay. So I get to that hospital. And when I go in the room, there's security in there. And my son is gone ballistic. I have never seen this before out of him. And you got to understand, my youngest son, he's small. He's on the smaller side. He's skinny and shorter than my other two. So he's not very big at all. But there's security in there. And they're giving him the Ativan. But I'm thinking to myself, why would there be security in the room? But then he is just going crazy. Now, they don't have him strapped down, okay? He had a cluster seizure. My son started having the clusters, and he also had a staring seizure. Staring seizure is, he had this at school, and that's when we knew that he was having, a couple different kinds of seizures. That's when you just stare. It doesn't happen very long, but I'm not going to get into all the different seizures. But his was mainly the grandma, but he did have staring, and he started having some of the cluster seizures. But I'm wondering what is going on. He is going ballistic. He is screaming obscenities to people. They got him to calm down. Okay. They got the Ativan in him. They got him to calm down. What I found out is they had some police officers there at the desk, a couple of police officers. You know, a lot of hospitals have police officers, you know, there in the ER, right? He was threatening the officers. He was threatening nurses. My son was being violent, okay? This little guy was being violent. He came out of a seizure, okay? He was talking. He already was in that deep sleep and already came out of that. He was talking, being fine. And then all of a sudden, he started getting violent. My kid doesn't have a violent bone in his body. I said in my last video how he likes to meditate. He's the peacemaker, okay? Doesn't have a violent bone in his body. And they had security in there because they, like I said, they didn't want to strap him down because after this, he went into another seizure. And that's why they do the Ativan, okay, to help with that. And he was violent. He didn't know who I was. He didn't know who his friends were. Well, his only one friend went in there. The other ones were in the waiting room. Didn't know who he was. This is something new I'd never seen before. Now, we go from the age of 6 to the age of 17. And he's had many seizures, okay? This is something I've never, ever witnessed before. Now, were they scared of my kid? Probably not, because, I mean, they could probably have held him back with one hand, but it's protocol, okay, in the hospital. I mean, he's threatening. So it's protocol. I don't know all what he said. They just told me that he was threatening, okay? They didn't seem really concerned because, again, he's small, but it's their protocol. But what I seen, him screaming and him cussing like he was, that wasn't my kid. Not saying my kid's an angel and he doesn't cuss, okay? We know teenagers cuss, right? But this wasn't my kid. This is not how he acted. This was something totally, totally new. All right? He was swinging like crazy. Now, this is after he came out of a seizure. Now, of course, sometimes when they're in a seizure, their arms are everywhere, okay? They're out of control. They don't know what they're doing. And then he went back in a deep sleep again, okay? When he woke back up, of course, when you have a seizure, you don't remember anything, all right? My son doesn't remember a thing. He does not remember threatening anybody. He does not remember cussing at anybody. He does not remember me coming in. He does not remember a thing. He was so apologetic to everybody there. Of course, you know, the hospital has in their computer has all his medical, because he's been there, you know, quite a few times, and his neurologist is there. You know, his physician is part of that group, so they knew what was going on. You know, they have all of his records they could pull up. But he was embarrassed. He was ashamed. And, you know, I had to keep telling him, it's okay, buddy. It's okay, you know. This was a side to him I've never, ever seen. Ever. And he's just saying sorry to everybody. And he was very depressed. And he, like I said, as he got older, now I've never seen him do that again, but he did. And I said in my last video, I do not live in the same state with my children. One of the last seizures he had, he was swinging kind of wildly when he came out, that he dislocated his shoulder. This is something he's never done before either. And he had to go into the hospital because they had to put his shoulder back into place. So things are changing with him as he gets older and he's having these seizures. So that's why I wanted to do this video, because everybody is not the same. And now I'm going to mention my second ex-husband only because I witnessed him get very violent. Now, he wasn't, with him, he had addictions, and that's how his life ended. He was a good man, besides those addictions that I tried so hard to help him with. And like I said, I was divorced from him when those addictions overcame him. But it was very ironic because he started having seizures out of the blue, and we'll never know why. I mean, he used to, in his younger days, I mean, he was younger than me, but in his younger days, he did boxing and mixed martial arts, but they never knew if it was drug-induced. His drug of choice were pills, okay? Prescription pills, but he would get them on the streets, okay? Whenever he could get his hands on them. It wasn't all the time, but whenever he could get his hands on them. And he started having, and his would be grandma seizures. And I seen him when he came out, and it only happened one time. I seen him, they put him on, because I called the ambulance. He had a very bad seizure, very bad. And he hit his head pretty hard when he went down. So I did call the ambulance. And when they put him on the gurney, he would also go into a sleep, not like my son. He would go into a sleep, but they put him on the gurney, and he woke up, and he was just kind of looking around, and he started talking to him. You know, they were taking, you know, his blood pressure, and they already had an IV started and all that stuff, and he was talking and everything. And I lived at that time in a small town, and in the small town, the first responders would come, that would, you know, the fire department, the volunteer fire department, they would come, and always a police would always come. We knew our police. It was a small town. And they would come, and then you would wait for, you know, the ambulance to get there, because they would see what they could do first. And he was on that gurney, and he just came up off that gurney. He broke, you know, those straps that they hold you down? He broke those straps, and he kicked. The police officer was right there. They got him on the gurney, and they had him pushed in, okay? He broke those straps, and it happened so fast. I don't know how. I mean, the police officer was right there, and right there at the edge of the ambulance, when the ambulance got there, and they got him in. They got, like I said, they had him hooked up to they got the IV in him. They were doing his blood pressure, and the police officer was standing there and talking. I don't know who he was talking to. His back was turned, like kind of like his side. He was turned. It was kind of like sideways, and he was right up against the ambulance. And my ex got off of that gurney, kind of scooted. I mean, it's just hard to explain. He kind of scooted, and he kicked the officer, and the officer went flying. No reason. No rhyme or reason at all. None. Absolutely none. He got tased. Okay? They had to tase him. And they had to handcuff him to get him to the hospital. He was not under arrest, okay? Because, like I said, we live in a small town. We knew the officers. You know, he just came out of the seizure. The officer went and got checked out because he got kicked hard. I've never seen that behavior before, ever. And I mean, he broke the gurney straps. Broke them. Could they have been weak straps? I sure would hope so. I sure would hope so. Because I sure would hope so. Because I know they put some people in them straps that, you know, they got to strap them down that have some heavy-duty drugs in their system. So I would think that maybe they were just weak. Maybe not. I don't know. But he broke them. So he just, I guess the moral of the story is I've seen this happen twice, okay, where people have came out of seizures and in my family and shown violence, all right? The brain is not functioning right. I mean, you got to understand, it's misfiring. The brain, I don't know what their story is, okay? I don't know. But your brain just misfired. The whole brain of, I don't know what kind of seizure Crafton had, but the whole brain is misfiring. And you just come out of all this and you're confused and you're dazed. And I know with my ex, he would be out of it after a seizure. He would be out of it for days. His whole body would hurt. That's always been. With my son, it wasn't that way until he started getting older. And, you know, he does get depressed now after every seizure. And that's something that we were told as well by the neurologist that can happen. So I just wanted to share that. Again, none of us were there. None of us. And I don't know what the story is, okay? Nobody knows what the medical records are, so we cannot sit here and say we know what the truth is and that we know it didn't happen the way that Kim is saying that it happened. We can't say that that's a fact and that she frauded everybody. I don't know Kim and Crafton from anybody, okay? I don't follow them. I've only watched a few videos. I don't have a beef with any creator, and I'm just sharing my story, all right? That it is very possible. It is very possible. So we can't sit up here on our pedestal and say that, no, she was frauding everybody and it didn't happen this way because we see a police report. And I'm telling you, if that officer with my ex wanted to be a jerk, could he have got him for assaulting a police officer? Yeah. I mean, could it have got taken care of at a later date? And saying, you know, it was because he had a seizure and he was coming out of a seizure. Yeah, but we knew the officer. It was a small town. You know, I don't know. I'm just saying, we can't sit here, and I see this a lot, that, you know, when creators and even viewers, they're saying that You know, well, I'm told this or I see this, so they're just taking it as a fact that they know that this is how it went down, when you really don't. You don't, because you weren't there. Or you might see something and you think this is how it went down. Okay? You might see. Sorry about that. I had to put it on pause and lost my train of thought there. Um, that's what irritates me a lot. People will see something and you might not like somebody, okay? So if you find information on them, you go with it and it's got to be black or white. It can't be in the middle. It can't be gray. It's got to be black or white. Just because you don't like somebody. You can't sit back and say, hey, maybe it happened this way. All right? There is a possibility. But see, I don't think that way. Maybe that's because I'm not into this war, this big YouTube war with everybody. So, I mean, you have to, like I said, people are putting this information out, and they're going around, and because they don't like a person, they're making it as a fact. And they're like, well, this is what the paperwork says, so it's got to be a fact. Just because that paperwork says that, I mean, people can drag up paperwork on that same person or another person and say, well, it says this, so it's got to be fact, when actually there can be a grayed area there, and it's really not fact, if you know what I'm saying. The story could actually be a little bit different than what's in black and white. Okay? It doesn't mean everything went down exactly as you're seeing the paperwork. There's more to the story, if you get what I'm saying. There's more to the story than exactly what you're seeing just in the black and white. So I'm going to go. I don't know if that made any sense, okay? But just because you don't like somebody, you don't have to spin everything to fit just your narrative. Think outside of the box sometimes, okay? That's all I'm saying. Like I said, this went on longer than I wanted it to. I think that's because I had to talk about my child and the experience that I dealt with him, and as well as my second ex, because they both had epilepsy. They were both diagnosed with epilepsy. So that's why I wanted to end. I seen the change in them. So that's why I wanted to share. So I'm just going to kick back and I guess for the day and see for the first time what has been going on in YouTube land for the last week. And we'll catch you guys again. And I hope you have a great Sunday.